Welcome, photo friends. We are going to have a continuation of our action lecture. We have a couple of things that are really fun to do with action, and so we're going to talk about them now. You can add motion to a stationary subject in many ways, and you can also add additional motion to a moving subject. So let's begin by adding additional motion to a moving subject. This is a job that I did for the Pleasanton County Fair, and there was a need for showing a lot of action on one of the rides. And so the art director's daughter was volunteered by him to help me out, and I had to do this ride about 15 times, and I'm sure that's going to be the last time she ever models for anything because she did eventually throw up. But anyway, I got this great shot. So this is right out of the camera, and I am zooming the camera while I am tracking with her, doing an exposure, and I have my flash going. Okay, so this is in the night portrait mode. That's the way that you would accomplish this. And as she goes by, I am swinging my camera so it kind of follows her, and I'm also zooming my zoom, and she was in the exact center of the frame. I cropped it differently. So she doesn't get really distorted, but everything else gets distorted. And then, of course, the flash, and you can see the little girl's legs on the left. They're smeared, but there is a sharp rendition of her legs besides the smear. So we'll talk about this. It's kind of a complicated, hard to accomplish technique, but it's great fun when you can do it. Okay, so for the advanced students, we're going to do this assignment. We're going to choose a subject and produce 3 images with what I call the snap zoom technique with different shutter speeds. And we're going to be sure to have the camera and the subject at the same position for all 3 shots. And we will label those shots by the shutter speed that we used. And the other one is we're going to do a snap zoom of lights at night. You won't be able to do this on the campus. And you will do a long exposure and move the camera. So let's talk about the snap zoom, the first part. Here's a band, a friend of mine's band. It's a 50th of a second at f4. So 50th of a second kind of got most of the motion. The guitar player is moving a little bit. You know, people are moving. There's definitely some movement in there. That's a 50th of a second. The next shot is at a quarter of a second, and I'm zooming in to the guitar player during the exposure. I start twirling the zoom before I touch the shutter, and so when I actually fire the shutter, the camera zoom is in motion. Now this is what it looks like at a half a second, and I'm moving the zoom very quickly. So this is one way to show a lot of motion with a subject that's really not moving that much. Now, if you don't do this on site, you can affect this same kind of look in Photoshop using the radial blur in the filter menu. So you just place the image on the screen, you put the center of the blur indicator where you want the subject to be sharp, and then you apply the blur. This is what the menu looks like. And you can see that the blur was really quite profound, but that layer went on top of the left-hand image, sorry. And so I was able to erase the top layer and leave a center portion that was unblurred. We'll go over that in class. Okay, so the next part, that's the part 2 of this assignment, is night lights. And This is a half a second while zooming on night lights. Neon lights are particularly good for this, and that's the assignment. That's the part two of the assignment. The part two, the second shot of part two, is moving the camera while the shutter is open, and it creates these exceptionally long blurs. Particularly good, again, with neon lights. You can see how I applied this. In the upper left, my wife and granddaughter were sitting in the ride. It hadn't started going yet. I just told them, look like you're going really, really fast. Took that shot. Later, I did a blurred shot of some neon lights, and then I superimposed my wife and granddaughter on top of that. And it came out with a great action shot, which I won some awards for. But, it's fake news, so it's not good for news photography, but it worked really well for the application, the job I was doing for the county fair. Okay, so that's it. We'll go over these techniques in class. I think you'll find them to be very fun.